You got it? Sophomores, we're really going to leave those blank right now. Come on. Come on. Come on, guys. It's like, I'm going to give a general just principle of chapel, because here's what I think. I think as people come in here and come through here, how we anticipate, how we come in every day. If we come in going like, oh man, this is my break, I'm just going to pull on my iPad and like relax, or I'm going to try to go to sleep, we're going to get nothing out of it, right? But if we come in here going with a sense, an excitement of anticipation, right? That God's going to do something, He's going to teach us something, He's going to use our minds, our hearts, all this sort of stuff, it's going to be a totally different year in regards to chapel. And so I'm challenging you guys on that to hold each other accountable with it. That was all for free, that had nothing to do with the message. So go ahead, guys. Today, I'm going to go through like kind of the theme verse, and I have the challenge of doing its context. Now, as I've been teaching the sophomores, context is talking about what's going on in the surrounding verses, because we're not just supposed to take a verse and go like, woo, power verse, okay, this kind of applies to my life this way, and then you can kind of do weird things with it. You're supposed to kind of know what's going on. So go ahead, give me the first slide, guys. I'm like ready to jump into it. This one's called Eating Lunch for the Glory of God, and then I want to get right to the theme verse and look at it. Okay, ready? Here we go. All right, now, everyone together, because I'm assuming if you're like the sophomores right now, that at some point one of your teachers make you memorize this verse, probably in the different things. So I'm going to have us all practice this together, right? So that we've got the theme verse down. So ready? 1, 2, 3. So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do it all for the glory of God. Okay, so whatever we're going to do it all for the glory of God. Now, that sounds pretty cool, like, okay, what does that actually mean? How do I actually do something for the glory of God? What areas of my life can I do that, and what can I do? I imagine we'll explore throughout chapel in a certain degree this year. But today, we're going to focus on the context, which is in this book called 1 Corinthians. And let me go ahead and put the context up for you. Okay? What is this text about? Meat sacrificed to idols, or whether or not you should eat that meat. Huh? Okay, has anyone ever seen like an actual idol? Okay, the one guy who's like the two guys that have been to Thailand. Okay, that's what I'm seeing right now, okay? All right, has anyone had a problem where someone has offered them meat that has been sacrificed to idol? Like, what are you supposed to do with that? All right, is everyone even like totally confused? Okay, we obviously got to do some background here and got to understand what's going on, okay? So here's what I love about the Bible. Here's why I think you should study the Bible. Here's what I've put, like, I'll say my life purpose is to study the Bible and help adolescents understand it. Okay, the reason I think it is, and not just like understand it like, listen to Mr. Thomas, he has all the right answers. Like, understand it for yourselves, is because what's happening here is a group of people called the Corinthians really lived 2,000 years ago and had real experiences, real struggles, real frustrations, and they got played out in our Bible. Our Bible is totally 100% from God, but it also has this human element, and this human element is wrapped up in, historical facts and stuff. So let's start with where are we at? Okay, so let's go to the next slide. We're located in a magical place called Corinth. Okay, if those of you who've had AP World History might be able to recognize this location, this is the Aegean Peninsula where Greece was located. So if you see, it also has a picture of Athens on there to give you kind of an idea of its location. But I want you to note something just about Corinth there. You see how there's like a landmass and then another landmass, and it's like in the middle? That's an isthmus. Got it? Isthmus. Anyone? Word of the day, isthmus. Everyone say? Okay, we're good. We're teaching right now. Okay, Corinth is on the isthmus. Now, here's what that means, okay? If you want to trade from Sparta, right, way over on the east coast of Greece, to Athens, way over on the west coast of Greece, to the east coast of Greece, you're going to have to like go through Corinth, which means it's a trading town. People are coming from all over the place. And it's got all sorts of people coming from all over the place, trading all back and forth, and all sorts of like terrible, sinful things are done there. Because here's what I would say about Corinth that will also work for Vegas. What happens in Corinth stays in Corinth. Is that a picture for you? I would compare it to the town of Las Vegas today. If you looked closely, go to the next slide, at its culture, at the things going on it, it's terrible. It's awful. It's exploitation. It's prostitution galore. It's whatever happens, meets, like there are all sorts of crazy parties, all this sort of stuff. Now, I want to show you something about it, though, that's a little different than our world. When we think of, like, religious people, we tend to think of, like, people that, you know, are not big business, they're not, like, you know, you might get some of them, and there are, you know, don't get me wrong, there are people today that earn money off of religion. But here's what you want to see. In the top left corner is the Agora. That's the marketplace. Think their outdoor mall that all buying and trading is done. And the Temple of Octavia is as large. And then it has another temple, the Temple of Apollo, right next to it that's just as important. So if you went to the mall in Corinth, you would see that gods and stuff are being sold everywhere. And so one of the things I love about history is you get to use your imaginations, but to imagine real things. So put yourself in their shoes for a moment. You walk down the street and somebody's trying to sell you an idol, someone's trying to get you to be a part of their pagan cult, someone's trying to get you to be a part of, like, idol worship all the time. It's just the norm. Everyone believes in polytheistic gods. It doesn't matter if you're a Christian or a Buddhist or whatever. Everyone's going to try to sell you their god, their system, their thing, all that sort of stuff. Okay, I still think it's relatively confusing, so here's the point. Next slide. Everywhere you're going to see something like this, some sort of idol thing. Okay, this is a gargoyle. It's supposed to fend off, like, demons and stuff on Roman architecture, but it's the scariest picture I could find. And at this point, I need to describe the problem. But I want you to get it right now. Here's what's going on. The problem is, what do you do about meat sacrificed to idols? Because normal in their culture, meat is sacrificed to idols, okay? And then there's like a black market of selling of the meat. So I need some help, okay? At this point, I'm going to demonstrate the problem, okay? I'm going to call up a couple students. Their names are Tyler and Elijah, okay? I'm going to bring out a false idol, right, to represent, help me out here, somebody. I need like a whose line it is. Is it any way name for a false god? All right, we would just want to go on. No Quetzalcoatl. I'm not sacrificing hearts right now, okay? We're not going to do human sacrifice right now. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to go with Unk because I'm not getting here in anything Greeks. Okay, this is Unk. And what benefit does Unk get you? I'm going to say it's going to get you a higher social status. You're going to earn more money. But to do that, you got to sacrifice to it. Everyone got the system here? So if you want to become higher social status, you want to be cool, you gotta pay off Unk here. So here's what we're going to do. First off, we're going to talk about Tyler. Tyler's got this book. It's called A Holy Bible because he is a Christian, and he's grown up a Christian in the town of Corinth. Probably has some Jewish roots, never participated in idol worship. He's been completely free of the system his whole life. He knows that this is wrong. No one would ever do this. And then we've got Elijah, okay? Elijah, come over on this side over here so we can distinguish here. Now, Elijah is a pagan, okay? He's a pagan Corinthian, and he wants to move up social status. He wants to get a better job. He's super excited about it. So here I am. Okay, first off, I'm going to play the high priest here, okay? Got it? So I'm the high priest. I got my high priest hat on. I'm the high priest of Unk. Everyone got it? Okay? So here you go. In this pack here are some items that you can sacrifice to Unk. Okay? So here's what he's going to do. He's paid good hard money for these sacrifices, and he's going to go like, okay, here, we're going to sacrifice, okay, we got a peach, a carrot, we got some granola bars, all this sort of stuff. And they're compiling. And I'm kind of giving him a little Unk blessing so that he can come up there. But he's not really moving up in social status, so he needs to go dig out some more, right? And you can see what's going on here. He's spending a lot of money so he can move up the social status. This isn't working too well because I got the secret. He doesn't know what it is, and all I'm doing is like exploiting his stuff. Now, here's the best part. Here, I need to see this for a second. Okay? Where is it? It's in here. You didn't sacrifice my iPad, I noticed. Here you go. He's got a little bit of money on him. Check in there. There's money in there, really. And what's happened is, I, as the high priest of Unk, am now looking at him going, okay, I've got all this extra food that have been sacrificed to my God. Well, I could kind of throw it out, but you know what? By the way, just so you guys know, it's meat sacrifice idol in the Bibles, but Mr. Robbins would not let me throw around like tri-tip in this example. So I come over, and I come over backwards, and I'm like, hey, you want to buy some sacrificed meat for a little, let's say, $1.29 a pound as opposed to $2, and then he gives you some money, and I'm like raking in the dough. So who's winning in this situation, by the way? Me. I'm earning money. I'm getting all the benefit. Elijah is being exploited, right? And, well, Tyler, I guess he got some carrots and some granola bars, so that's what's happening. Now, here's what happens, okay? Here's what happens. Okay, switch the slide for a second. All right, quite come out how I wanted. I wanted him to look more angry. Okay, here's what happened. Elijah comes to know Jesus, okay? So go run over with Tyler, because over on that stage is where you know Jesus, apparently, okay? They know the Bible, right? And then he's like, I'm doing this deal still with Tyler on the side, and he's teaching him the Bible. And then all of a sudden, Tyler offers Elijah a carrot and a granola bar. And he recognizes them as food that has been sacrificed to the God that he came out of and exploited him. Now, how does he feel? He's so angry that he throws the food directly on the ground. Okay, everyone see it there. And he's like, how dare you? He puts his finger into Tyler's chest, and he goes, how dare you? How dare you offer that false god food in front of my place and all these sorts of things? And Tyler's like, I just was trying to get some food to you, just offering you some food. Okay, and he goes, I can't believe, Elijah says, I can't believe you think you actually are a Christian that would eat food sacrificed to Unk. Got it? And he says it real angry like, Elijah, you're smiling. You need to like get mad. Okay, yeah. That's why I picked him. All right, does everyone see that there? Everyone see the anger that's going on? There's like a thing. It's like we need to write up a respect agreement and put meat sacrificed to idols on Corinth. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay, everyone kind of see the system. Now, I'm going to ask you, okay, all right, should Christians, I'm going to ask by raise of hands, should Christians in Corinth eat this food sold in this system? How many of you say yes? How many of you say no? No. How many of you are afraid to raise their hand because they're going to get called on? Here's what Paul says. Maybe. He doesn't say either way. Okay, did Tyler sin by buying food off of me, the evil high priest of Unk? No. Okay, here let me say it for you. No. How did he sin? By offending Elijah and possibly losing a believer to following Jesus. Okay? Now pause, because here's the point. Give me all this stuff back. You guys can go down. Give them a hand. Okay? And they're like, oh, wait, I should take this off now. You're like, oh, now I perfectly understand it. Here's what I want you guys to see just in conclusion. The pagan worldview that they were living in, which was normal. For us, when I say pagan, you imagine like, I don't know, somebody out in the trees like doing witchcraft and whatever, or maybe some sort of seance and whatever. This was normal for them. It's exploitative. It takes people's money, it takes people's times, it takes people's sacrifice, okay? And then it benefits only the religious system that it was a part of. Number two, it was considered by the early church the thing that they exited from. So here's how I'd say it. The way Elijah should be so mad, the person that came out of there, would be like somebody that was coming out from, say, Teen Challenge after having a problem with drinking, and then somebody offered them a beer. Does that make sense? That's how mad they should feel. So you know what I mean? It's like you don't even care about the story that I've gone through. You don't care about the religious relationships that I've been a part of. This has broken me. This has messed me up. This has hurt me. Does that make sense? And then all of a sudden, it's just a total issue. However, it is not a sin to buy cheap food that has been sacrificed to idols. Everyone holding that intention? Because here's what we're actually talking about. We're talking about how to engage gray areas. Now, you guys know that a whole lot of life is not defined in the Bible clearly whether it's a sin or not. Is dancing a sin? Or Harry Potter books a sin? Is being a vegan a sin? Is go through the books here, go through the list here, okay? And I think our Bible speaks very clearly to what do we do when, let's say, my grandma is offended by a sin, and yet we as students are not, and they think maybe getting tattoos is a sin, but I don't. Should I get a tattoo because anyhow, you get the idea. You guys are caught in a lot of gray areas where people have put standards and said, no, you can't do this, and it may or may not be listed as a sin in the Bible. Does that make sense to everyone? I'm just giving you examples. So, what we have here from Paul is 3 chapters worth, actually. This is the very end of 3 chapters worth of explanation of how to deal with this very, 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 very strange gray area. Okay, so I'm going to move us through those chapters really quick. I'm going to start in 1 Corinthians 8, verse 1. Okay? He starts out with a verse, now concerning foods sacrificed to idols. And then he goes through the entirety of chapter 8, and all I did was summarize it. I didn't have you guys read through it all, but I just wanted to show you this food sacrifice to idols issue comes up like in, I'll just say, from the very beginning of chapter 8, and we're going to go all the way to chapter 10. That's how fast we're going to move. Number 1, he starts out right away, knowledge puffs up. Okay? Now you can picture it right now, because here's Tyler. Here's Tyler, and he knows that Elijah stumbled because of meat sacrificed to idols. He goes, you dummy, you idiot, don't you know that it's not a sin to eat this food? You're so dumb, you don't even know who God is. Got it? All he did was take Elijah, make him this small, and make Tyler this big and like, oh, dude, I got the secret, I'm way better. He's starting to sound like an high priest. Everyone got the picture there? Okay? And we're starting to see that knowledge puffs up. If I'm just all about like me being right and the other person being wrong, you know what I mean? I'm gonna really like stumble some people in regard to the gospel. Back in the day, it was like we were going for like piercings, right? Like my age, right? Goth, a lot of people, guys and whatever, wanted piercings. And I can still remember these guys that would come out and they'd have shirts that said, "Body piercing saved my life," and it'd have a big old bloody picture of Jesus's hand on the cross with a stabbed through with the nail. And then, the guy's got like 3 earrings and a nose ring, sort of idea. This is knowledge that puffs up. That sounds strange because that's not who I think when I think knowledge. It's when I take a gray area and I go, the most important thing in the world is that I get to express my rights and I get to, as a male, get my piercings or my tattoos or read my Harry Potter. Anyhow, I'm going to go down the list, okay? So what does Paul say about the issue with food sacrifice to idols? Because if anyone else is like, most of you said, that's a sin, Tyler shouldn't be eating that food, right? In their world, he goes, there's only one God, and it is not an idol. And then he pretty clearly states, eating food sacrificed to idols is not a sin. Got it? Everyone clear? So next time you're in an idol worshiper and some idol worshiper offers you food, you're cool, you can eat it. Got it? But it has a greater problem, a worse problem. That problem is it stumbles others. Okay? Because here's where we're about to go. Go to the next slide. We're going to see that people are easily stumbled over little things. Little gray areas will completely throw them off, and they won't even want you to be a part of the gospel. Okay? Nevertheless, we have made use of this right, but we endure anything rather than put an obstacle in the way of the gospel. See, here's what happens in chapter 9. He leaves meat sacrificed for idols for a moment, and he gives another example. The other example is, should Paul be paid to preach the gospel? Okay, raise your hands. How many of you think, should Paul be paid to preach the gospel? Raise your hand if you think he should. Yes. On your marks, get set, go. Raise. Okay, how many of you think he should take no money to preach the gospel? Okay, so you guys are more like the Corinthians. Here's what had happened. He had gone to Corinth. He had set up a business where he sold tents. Got it? Then preached the gospel along with a couple people called Priscilla and Aquila, right? And he won many people over the gospel by running a lay ministry. Now, he goes through the verses and basically says outright, ministers should be paid. Apostles should be paid. But you know what? I didn't express this right to get paid in order that you might get the gospel of Jesus Christ. Everyone got it there? So what's the most important thing? Everybody at once? 1, 2, 3. What's the most important thing? Okay, the gospel of Jesus Christ and spreading over. Now, I'm going to pause and give you 2 minutes of the gospel, just so you understand, okay? if you guys that are new here and this is like, what in the world is he talking about? Listen to this part. The Bible, Jesus has given us a life-giving message. That message is that we are all sinful, that we have all broken relationship with God. Every single one of us, me, you. There's nothing secret about it. I can't sell it to you. We all have struggled with sin. We've all broken relationship with God. But that God stepped down out of the heavens, was incarnated, became human. He lived a perfect life for us, and then laid that life down as a sacrifice so that I don't never need to think about a sacrificial system. He laid that life down for me so I could know him and for all of you. And he gave a gift of what we call eternal life, something where I would say now we can know him, engage him, pray to him, even though we're sinners because he's paid the price. And then that stretches all the way into eternity in what we usually call heaven. Okay? Unpause. That message needs to go out amongst us and all of us. And I would say it this way, this is what this verse is actually about. It's not so much about, he's kind of diverting the question, is my point. He's not going, hey, the most important thing is this guy's right because he ate meat sacrificed to idols, and this guy's wrong. That's what we would be all about. He's going, the gospel is the most important thing. That people can hear that gospel in regards to our lives is this. Now, go to the next verse. Paul demonstrates this by going, I wish I could have gone a little farther back. He says, to a Jew I become Jew, to a Greek to become Greek. He changes his eating habits, his culture, and everything, not because it's a sin or it's not a sin, but because he wants people to know the gospel. Okay? All right, you ready for this? Here's what I was challenged with by a former student the other day. Okay? She's in classes. It's cool in college to be a vegan. She asked me this question, would I become a vegan, okay, to win over vegans to the gospel? Now, is eating meat a sin? No, okay? If I say that it is a sin, it would just puff me up, and you get the idea. We're back at meat sacrifice to idols. However, here's what I'm asking you guys. Would you lay down your right to eat meat to win somebody else over to the gospel? Okay? Awkward question. Some of you guys are like, nah, man, my guns, my meat, they ain't going anywhere. Does that make sense? It's awkward. This is not for everyone. This is not a universal thing. It's a challenge because here's what's happening. Somebody who's convicted that they can't eat meat because they're like, somehow cows are wrecking everything. I'm going to go ahead and say it this way. That's a description in the Bible of somebody who's weak. However, at one point in the Bible, it literally says, I'll eat nothing if I could win someone over to Christ. That's how important the gospel message was to Paul. He didn't care about meat sacrificed to idols. He didn't care about being right. He wanted you to hear that Jesus laid down his life for his sins. So Paul wants us all to present the gospel to those that don't believe like us. And at some point, you're going to be confronted with somebody that stumbled by something that you do. And you're going to have to decide, do I want to express my right or do I want to present the gospel? Everyone got it there? It's my rights versus the gospel. Okay? Go ahead, next slide. All right? So finally, he says this thing, because this is the challenge for us. Let no one seek their own good, but the good of his neighbor. Okay? Now, I just described to you something in paganism that I think is often felt to be true. There's some guy with the secret, right? He's exploiting everybody else. It kind of sounds like the Illuminati, right? Like you're like full on trying to exploit someone else, and you're just earning money off of it, or you're just earning some sort of benefit off it. You're earning popularity. Christianity, I'm going to say it at a base level, has an others-centered ethic. The best way that I'll say it this way, please God, that I can know God, all those sorts of things, is to not worry about myself, but to worry about someone else. Does that make sense? Here's what's happening. A lot of us go home at night and we struggle with some sort of sin and we go, oh my gosh, this sin is terrible. It's totally taken over my life. God can't even be real. We start questioning everything, right? And what the Bible is presenting to us is, hey, don't worry about yourself so much. Go love someone else. Got it? Let no one seek his own good, but the good of his own neighbor. Do you know how countercultural this is? Do you know how opposite of this will be everything that you ever hear? I'm worried someone will say to you, because I hear it all the time, you need to love yourself before you can love someone else. This verse opposes it outright. The Christian message is lay down your life. That doesn't mean kill yourself. It means think about someone else first and love them. And you know what the promise is? If I go according to Jesus, as you lay down that life, you'll gain your life. You'll gain your soul. And this is a challenge, I think, to all of us. So when I'll say this reverberates off Mr. Gertson's message, particularly towards the seniors, but I'm going to push it on the juniors and the sophomores and the freshmen a little bit. It's like be others focused. If you can do that right now, I'm going to say it this way, there's going to be a pleasure of God, which comes back to, I'm going to say it this way, situational responses. Because I can't tell you how to love your neighbor. That sounds strange. Here's what I mean by that. How tonight, when the JV football team goes and plays Kingsburg, how they love their neighbor is going to look significantly different than how the golf team loves their neighbor, the girls' golf team, when they go and play golf. It's going to look significantly different in math class, might mean helping someone else out, than it is at lunch, where it might mean listening to someone else's problems. You have to go, am I caring only about myself in this situation? Am I only caring about my own grade, my own things, my own rights, my own expressions? Or am I caring about someone else? Okay? Because now we can go back to our verse as we've, hopefully, in a general way understood it. So, and now here, the whole paragraph, guys, right? Here's the concluding paragraph of this whole section. So, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do all to the glory of God. Give no offense to your friends, to the people who are Immanuel who aren't like you, to the people who are around you, to the outside folks from really high, to the entire community that surrounds you, to the different, I'll say, the Hispanic community, to the white community, to all the different communities that are part of us, or to the church of God, just as I try to please everyone in everything I do, not seeking my own advantage, but that of the many, that they might be saved. Okay, final slide as we come to the conclusion. What does it mean to glorify God? Okay, that's kind of what I'm defining for you. Now, Mr. Gertson did a great job of going glory, and I hope other people do even a better job of this. Like, glory is an attribute of God. It worships, it just shows how the goodness of God comes off of them. Our job as Christians, our job is to shine back that God in every little moment, every little opportunity you can to show that God. Got it? He's beautiful. He's awesome. And we can take our lunches and we can be all about our rights, or we can be others focused and love someone else at lunch, right? So even if you take a little moment and glorify God with it, instead of be worried about ourselves, God's going to be pleased. There's going to be joy. I'm going to say it again. I've been saying it all over again. We do this by focusing on someone else, not yourselves. So if you come out of this message and go like, oh man, I need to fix my life. No, you need to just make a friend. You need to actually get to know somebody in a deep manner. You need to actually love someone even as they struggle, okay? And then finally, I'm going to say it this way. I could read the dress code up here right now, and I could get the whole student body fired up with their knowledge. Got it? Knowledge puffs up. I'm right. As soon as I say I'm right, we have a whole system in the American government presented with my rights. And I would challenge you guys to think about this. Your rights are not less important than the gospel. And here's what I wish. I wish there were students that were more and more inclined to stand up like Paul and proclaim the gospel with their whole lives over students that were like, hey, I don't like this much about the respect agreement. Does everyone see the difference? And don't get me wrong, teachers struggle with this as well. Like, I have rights, I want to express them, I want to be done at this time, I want to get home, right? Does everyone kind of get it? But I want so much for us to be able to proclaim that gospel that Jesus Christ laid down his life for us. Because if you don't know wherever else how to glorify God, just say, Jesus Christ laid down his life for me, and my sins are forgiven. And all you're doing is taking that God and glorifying him in, I think, the base manner that he wants to be glorified. There's so much more that can be said about that. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay? All right, can I pray for us? Lord, help us to know you, to glorify you, to praise you. Thank you, God, for all that you're working in us and loving us. And we I pray, Lord, that you would, that your gospel will be heard throughout the student body, because students are willing to look at others and not themselves. In Jesus' name, amen.